Have you ever dropped a penny on the sidewalk and thought nothing of it? What if I told you that little coin you left behind might have been worth thousands of dollars? Today, we're uncovering the astonishing hidden history of a coin so common we barely notice it, yet so extraordinary in rare cases that collectors have paid small fortunes to own one. I'm talking about the 1979 D. Lincoln 1-cent penny, a coin that countless Americans have carried in their pockets without ever realizing its incredible potential value. Because of rare minting errors, unusual planchets, and transitional anomalies, even this humble penny can transform into a sought-after treasure. This is not just a story about copper and zinc, but about history, craftsmanship, and the thrill of the hunt for the rarest of the rare hiding in plain sight. In 1979, the Denver Mint struck hundreds of millions of Lincoln cents. At a glance, nothing about these coins seemed remarkable. The design was the same portrait of Abraham Lincoln we've seen since 1909, and the reverse still featured the Lincoln Memorial. But buried among the masses were a tiny handful of error coins that would one day turn heads at major auction houses. To appreciate why, let's look at the coin's numismatic background. The Lincoln cent had already become one of the longest-running coin designs in American history by 1979, first introduced in honor of Lincoln's 100th birthday. The 1979 D was struck at the Denver Mint, which is identifiable by the small D mint mark just below the date. Collectors know that the Denver Mint was responsible for some of the cleanest strikes of the Lincoln Memorial cents, but also that it occasionally produced errors when dies were overused, misaligned, or paired incorrectly. And it's these errors that make certain examples so incredibly valuable. One of the most prized errors among 1979 D Lincoln cents is the double die obverse. Imagine looking at the word Liberty or the date and seeing each letter or number appear doubled, like a ghost image shadowing the original. This occurs when the die itself was improperly manufactured, and each coin it struck bore the same doubling flaw. For collectors, these errors represent a tiny window into the minting process itself, a glimpse of human and mechanical imperfection preserved in metal. One such double die penny reportedly sold at auction for nearly $5,000, simply because of its rarity and the clarity of the doubling. Another anomaly that excites collectors is when a coin was struck on the wrong planchet. A planchet is the blank metal disc that becomes a coin. There are known examples of 1979 D. Lincoln cents struck on dime planchets, which results in a coin that's smaller and lighter, with a silvery appearance instead of copper. These wrong planchet errors can bring thousands of dollars, especially when authenticated and graded by a reputable service like PCGS or NGC. Even more dramatic are transitional errors, where leftover planchets from a prior year or wrong metal composition were mistakenly used. One collector at a 2018 auction paid more than $7,000 for a 1979 D. Lincoln cent struck on a transitional planchet, a rare relic of the chaos that sometimes happens during changeover at the mint. To truly understand how these errors can emerge, let's take a step back into the minting process of the late 1970s. By then, the U.S. Mint was grappling with rising copper prices. The Lincoln cent's composition had already been reduced from nearly pure copper to a copper-plated zinc core in the early 1980s. But even before that official switch, planchet stock could sometimes get mixed up between test strikes, regular production, and leftover blanks. In a vast factory environment where millions of coins are produced every day, such errors, while rare, were inevitable. And for collectors, each one is a mystery to solve and a prize to own. One of the most fascinating stories comes from a collector who stumbled upon a rare 1979 D off-center strike in a bag of pennies bought at face value from a local bank. The coin was dramatically misaligned, with part of Lincoln's portrait missing and a blank crescent of metal along the rim. That coin, despite its obvious imperfection, was graded Mint State 63 and sold for $2,300 at auction because of its rarity and the clean, uncirculated surfaces. There are also famous tales of double dies making headlines. A 1979 D. Lincoln cent with dramatic doubling in the motto, "In God We Trust," was sold at auction in 2021 for over $4,000 after spirited bidding between two serious collectors. According to experts, only a handful of such specimens are known, making it a truly scarce find. Why do collectors pay so much for these flawed coins? It's about more than the monetary value. These errors tell a story. They are snapshots of a fleeting moment when the machinery faltered, when a die was misaligned or a planchet slipped through the wrong chute. They're like fossils of the minting process, rare, beautiful in their own imperfect way, and impossible to duplicate. Auction records show that demand for Lincoln cent heirs remains strong even decades later. Heritage Auctions, one of the largest coin auction houses in the U.S., routinely lists Lincoln cents with heirs that sell for thousands. Some dealers even specialize in locating and authenticating these coins, and they advise everyday collectors to always examine the date, lettering, and weight of their pennies. That penny jar in your kitchen might just be holding a hidden gem.as nostalgic, as they are valuable. These coins also connect us to history. The Lincoln Cent series has been in continuous production since 1909, longer than any other U.S. coin design, and each penny carries a little piece of our collective story. In 1979, America was at a crossroads of economic challenges, rising inflation, and changing technology. Even the smallest coin, often overlooked, reflects that era. And when you find one with a rare error, you're holding not just a piece of metal, but a piece of history that slipped through the cracks. The next time you come across a 1979 D. Lincoln cent, don't dismiss it. Turn it over in your hand. Look closely at the date and motto. Feel the weight, and consider the possibility that you might be holding one of the rarest specimens ever struck. And even if you don't find a treasure right away, the search itself is part of the magic. Each penny you examine brings you closer to understanding the art and accident of coin making. For seasoned collectors, these coins are reminders of why they fell in love with numismatics in the first place. The thrill of the hunt, the joy of discovery, and the satisfaction of owning a piece of history. For everyday viewers, they're a powerful lesson. Never underestimate what might be hiding right under your nose. So here's your challenge. Tonight, when you get home, grab that old jar of pennies you've been meaning to cash in. Spread them out under a good light. Look for doubled letters, off-center strikes, and planchets that seem too light or too silvery. Check for any unusual textures or dates. Even if you find nothing extraordinary, you'll have taken the first step into a fascinating world that combines history, artistry, and a little bit of luck. And if you do happen to find a rare 1979 D. Lincoln cent with one of these errors, don't hesitate to have it authenticated by a reputable grading service. Who knows? Your pocket change might just change your life. Thank you for watching, and if you enjoyed this story-driven journey into the hidden treasures of the Lincoln cent, don't forget to like this video, subscribe to the channel, and hit the bell so you never miss more tales of numismatic wonder. And remember, every coin has a story. The question is, are you ready to find yours? In 1941, America was on the cusp of entering World War II. Life was changing fast, and the humble wheat penny was a fixture of everyday life. The Lincoln cent, first introduced in 1909 to honor Abraham Lincoln's 100th birthday, had already become a symbol of American craftsmanship. Designed by Victor David Brenner, it featured Lincoln's dignified portrait on the obverse and two stylized wheat stalks framing the words 1 cent on the reverse. The wheat penny, as collectors fondly call it, remained in circulation for decades, but the coins minted in 1941 hold a special place in the hearts of collectors, and not just because of their history. That year, the Philadelphia, Denver, and San Francisco mints produced well over 1 billion Lincoln wheat cents combined. Most were struck in ordinary fashion. Bronze planchets composed of 95% copper and 5% tin and zinc, measuring 19 millimeters in diameter and weighing just over 3 grams. The Philadelphia Mint, which produced the majority, did not use a mint mark, while coins from Denver bore a small D, and San Francisco coins carried an S, just below the date. At first glance, all of these coins seem identical. But among the millions, a few carry striking errors that turn them into rarities collectors dream of finding. One of the most famous errors is the double die obverse. Imagine looking at the date, 1941, or the words "In God We Trust," and seeing a faint shadow behind each number and letter, as if the die had stamped the coin twice just out of alignment. That doubling happened when the die itself was improperly manufactured, and each coin it struck bore the same eerie, double details. Only a handful of such double die 1941 pennies are known, and their value depends heavily on the strength and clarity of the doubling. One example sold at auction for over $3,000 simply because of how sharp and noticeable the error was. Another graded specimen in near mint condition fetched even more, a testament to how much collectors cherish these little mistakes of history. And then there are wrong planchet errors, coins struck on blanks intended for other denominations. In some cases, a 1941 wheat penny was struck on a planchet meant for a dime, resulting in a smaller, thinner, silver-colored cent that looks strikingly out of place. Other examples include off-metal errors where the penny was struck on steel or an experimental alloy, as the mint tested metals in anticipation of wartime shortages. These transitional anomalies are rare but incredibly valuable. At auction, one such coin reportedly brought in nearly $10,000 due to its unique composition and historical significance. For collectors, these errors tell more than just a story about money. They are snapshots of history, tiny, tangible reminders of what was happening at the U.S. Mint and in the world during 1941. That year, as the U.S. ramped up war production, the Mint was already experimenting with alternative metals to save copper for military use. Although the famous steel cents wouldn't appear until 1943, the seeds of change were already planted, and a few experimental planchets occasionally found their way into regular circulation. Even more fascinating are the off-center strikes and clip planchets that collectors sometimes find in their wheat pennies. Imagine a coin where Lincoln's face is missing half its features because the planchet wasn't fully aligned with the die. Or a penny with a crescent-shaped bite taken out of it because the blank metal sheet was improperly cut. These errors are easy to spot even with the naked eye, and their value depends on how dramatic and clean the error appears. Off-centered 1941 pennies have sold for anywhere from $50 to several $100s, depending on condition and degree of misalignment. One particularly memorable story comes from a young collector in the Midwest who inherited an old coffee can full of wheat pennies from his grandfather. As he sorted through them one rainy afternoon, he noticed one penny's date looked odd. Almost like a faint ghost of 1941 was stamped slightly above the visible numbers. A quick check confirmed it was indeed a double die obverse, and after sending it off to be graded, he discovered it was worth more than $2,500. That single discovery not only sparked his passion for coin collecting, but also became a cherished family story. A reminder that hidden treasures can be found in the most unexpected places. For seasoned numismatists, the allure of the 1941 wheat penny lies in its combination of historical significance and accessibility. It's a coin that even beginners can afford to start collecting, yet one with enough rare varieties and errors to keep experts hunting for years. Heritage Auctions, one of the largest and most respected coin auction houses in the world, regularly features 1941 pennies in their sales, with rare errors often commanding thousands of dollars. In one notable auction, a nearly flawless 1941 wheat penny in an exceptional state of preservation sold for over $6,000, proving that even standard-issue coins can reach impressive heights when perfectly struck and carefully preserved. There's also a nostalgic magic to the wheat penny that transcends its monetary value. For many Americans, these coins bring back memories of childhood, of rummaging through change jars, of grandparents handing them over as allowance, of simpler times when a penny still seemed to mean something. The wheat stalks on the back evoke a bygone era of American agriculture and craftsmanship. And when you find one with a rare error, it feels like uncovering a hidden chapter of that history. A tiny piece of the past that somehow slipped through the cracks. What should you take away from this story? First, never underestimate the potential value of the coins in your possession. If you have a jar of old wheat pennies, especially from the early 1940s, take the time to inspect them carefully. Look for clear doubling on the date and lettering. Check for off-center strikes or clipped edges, and feel the weight to see if the metal seems unusual. If you suspect you have something rare, consult a reputable coin grading service or local dealer to have it properly authenticated and appraised. Second, consider the journey each coin has taken before reaching your hands. That 1941 penny might have passed through countless pockets during World War II, sat in a cash register in a bustling city, or been tucked away as a lucky keepsake by someone decades ago. Each nick and scratch tells a story, and each rare error reveals the imperfect humanity behind the minting process. And finally, embrace the wonder of the hunt. Whether you're a seasoned collector or just starting out, the thrill of discovering a hidden gem among ordinary coins is one of the most rewarding experiences you can have. Every penny you examine could be the one. Every wheat stalk you turn over could reveal a rare and valuable secret. Thank you for joining me on this cinematic journey into the hidden history and surprising value of the 1941 Lincoln wheat penny. If you found this story as fascinating as I did, don't forget to like this video, subscribe to the channel, and click the bell icon so you never miss another tale of numismatic wonder. And tonight, when you're done here, grab your own pennies and start looking, because your next great treasure might already be waiting for you right under your nose.